Our next guest, Professor Bob Stone, holds a chair in Interactive Multimedia Systems within the College of Engineering and Physical Sciences at the University of Birmingham, where he's also the director of the Human Interface Technologies team. Being one of the first Europeans to experience the NASA View virtual reality system in 1987 and having established the first industrial VR team at the UK's National Advanced Robotics Centre.
Bob also brought together 12 companies to fund the world's first industrial collaborative project addressing the commercial applications of VR. In 2000, Bob was accredited by the director of Russia's Gagarin Cosmonaut Training Center as responsible for introducing VR into the cosmonaut space program.
Welcome, Bob. So great to have you on the show. You are so well known in the world of all things VR, AR and MR. Can you explain to our listeners, as I know you're very vocal on this, what are the differences between virtual, augmented and mixed realities?
Right, well, virtual reality is what most people recognise as putting on a headset and jumping into a new computer-generated world. That's it. Headset's not the be-all and end-all, but this idea, this holy grail of immersing people into a simulated or computer-generated world so you can freely explore and freely interact is what virtual reality is all about, like the headset I've got with me here. Now, in contrast, augmented reality is all about endowing the user with information about the real world. So the idea here is you take the 3D information, you take the video, you take text, you take alphanumeric characters, and you superimpose them on the real world by using smartphone or headset or tablet. Now, mixed reality, a lot of people confuse mixed reality, but to me, mixed reality is all about how we can use real world objects to make the virtual world more believable. So in one of our projects, for example, we're interacting with a very realistic physical casualty, a mannequin, and we can put our hands on that mannequin. But as far as you're concerned, you're inside a virtual Chinook helicopter. So that's definitely using the elements of the real world to make the virtual more believable, because the virtual reality still cannot achieve the ultimate in believability.
In 2000, you were credited for introducing VR into the cosmonaut space program. I mean, that is a huge accolade. How on earth did you end up working in the Russian space program, and what came of the work that you did?
Well, I'm still in contact with my friends in Russia. We're still both in Moscow and in a place called Novocherkassk in the south of Russia. Again, a long story, but we had a visit in Salford by two people from Russia. Professor Valentin Shukchinov and Professor Peter Pamflov, still very close friends, and we actually helped because they were just beginning to get their hands on virtual reality and the concept. So again, long story short, we managed to secure quite legally some software for them called Virtual Reality Toolkit by a company called Superscape, and we helped them build the first ever virtual reality Mir space station, as it was at the time. And since then they've actually embraced that and introduced virtual reality training into the cosmonaut training program in both training establishments north and south of Russia.
Now, you've been a member of the IET, and there have been a great deal of developments between what you were wowing IEEE audiences with in the 1990s and the early 2000s and what we are seeing today.
Yeah, in many respects, there are some certain technologies, such as the headsets, that really haven't changed that much. I mean, the images have got sharpened, the optics have got better. They're still pretty cumbersome to wear. But they have improved generally, and of course with products like the Oculus Quest, we're now seeing headsets that we never dreamt of back in the 90s, where we put the headset on and then there are no cables and everything is done inside the headset itself. But in other respects, things haven't moved on as quickly. Like, for example, gloves that give you the sense of touch. I mean, for example, just very quickly, I managed to pull this off the wall. This is the world's first ever haptic feedback or tactile feedback glove that I invented, called the Teletact, and I've kept this. I'm sure I'll be able to sell it on eBay one day for a stonking amount of money. But the one big change between the 90s and the 2000s, because at the end of the 90s, virtual reality started to wane quite a bit, was that the games community came on board. And I think, to cut a long story short, it was advances in gaming, particularly software, and the kind of graphics boards that we now take for granted in computers and laptops, made a complete difference. So today we're doing stuff today that back in the 1990s we were doing on a £250,000 graphic supercomputer and software costing 75 grand, something crazy like that.
Yeah.
Oh, Bob, thank you so much. That is huge amounts of food for thought for us. Thank you so much for joining us.